The narrative of Carrie immediately establishes the terrifying circumstances surrounding the birth and isolated upbringing of Carrie White. The film opens with a brutal scene depicting Carrie's mother, Margaret White, alone and in agonizing labor. Margaret, a deeply disturbed religious fanatic whose beliefs are rooted in self-hatred and a fervent fear of sin, views the impending birth as the arrival of a cursed child. In a moment of extreme delusion, she resolves to kill the infant with a pair of shears, believing it is a mandate from God. But she hesitates, allowing the baby girl to survive. This grim prologue sets the tone for the abusive, suffocating environment in which Carrie will grow up in Chamberlain, Maine. The film then jumps to Carrie as a painfully shy, sheltered, and socially inept teenager attending UN High School. Her life at home is a continuous cycle of psychological abuse and religious indoctrination, with Margaret constantly subjecting her to emotional terror and locking her in a small prayer closet surrounded by morbid, religious iconography whenever she perceives Carrie to have sinned. Carrie has been deliberately kept ignorant of basic biology, sexuality, and normal social behavior. The central conflict ignites in the girls' locker room after a mandatory gym class. Carrie experiences her first menstrual period while showering, an event she is completely unprepared for. Terrified and confused, believing she is bleeding to death, she cries out desperately for help. Her classmates, led by the viciously popular Chris Hargensen, respond not with sympathy, but with merciless cruelty. They surround Carrie, mocking her, chanting "plug it up," and pelting her with tampons and sanitary pads in a scene of overwhelming public humiliation that becomes instantly viral when one of the girls, Tina, films the entire incident on her phone. The chaos is finally stopped by the arrival of the gym teacher, Ms. Desjardins, the counterpart to Miss Collins in the original. Ms. Desjardins is deeply shocked and disgusted by the girl's depravity. Recognizing the severity of the trauma inflicted on Carrie, she resolves to punish the perpetrators severely. She forces all the girls involved, including those who simply stood by, into mandatory after-school detention, during which they must engage in strenuous physical exercise as punishment. She warns them explicitly: any girl who refuses detention will be barred from attending the upcoming senior prom. The disciplinary action immediately creates a rift. Most girls, fearing social exclusion, begrudgingly comply. However, Chris Hargensen, arrogant and spiteful, refuses to obey Ms. Desjardins, leading to her official ban from the prom. Chris's public humiliation only fuels her existing malice, and she vows a terrible, vengeful act against both Carrie and Ms. Desjardins, a threat she immediately sets out to execute with the help of her delinquent boyfriend, Billy Nolan. In the midst of this external turmoil, Carrie's body reacts to the extreme stress and humiliation by unlocking a latent power, telekinetic ability. She first manifests this power accidentally when, in her bedroom, she focuses her mounting rage, causing items in the room to fly and a large light fixture to explode. Disturbed but intrigued, Carrie begins to privately research her abilities, eventually testing and refining her control over objects using only her mind, a secret refuge from her suffocating life. Meanwhile, Sue Snell, one of the popular girls who had participated in the shower room bullying, is overcome by sincere guilt after witnessing the detention and reflecting on Carrie's isolation. Driven by genuine remorse, Sue hatches a plan for atonement. She convinces her charming and popular boyfriend, Tommy Ross, to invite Carrie to the prom in her place. Tommy, initially bewildered and apprehensive about the social backlash, agrees because of Sue's obvious sincerity, understanding that this is an act of profound kindness. When Tommy asks Carrie to the prom, the invitation sends her into a frenzy of hope and anxiety. Margaret, predictably, reacts with violent, fanatical rage, viewing the prom as a sinful gathering and the invitation as a demonic lure. She physically attempts to stop Carrie, quoting scripture and invoking divine judgment. Carrie, however, stands her ground, now armed with her burgeoning telekinetic powers. She uses her mind to throw her mother back, shattering the kitchen table and demonstrating a chilling new strength that finally overpowers Margaret, forcing her to reluctantly concede, though she warns Carrie that they will laugh at you. In the days leading up to the prom, Carrie uses her newfound confidence and skill to mend and transform a simple, dated dress into a beautiful gown. Her preparation is paralleled by the sinister preparation of Chris and Billy. Chris and Billy, operating under cover of darkness, track down a pig farm, brutally slaughter a pig, and fill a massive bucket with its blood. They then sneak into the EUN High Gymnasium and meticulously rig the bucket high above the stage, ensuring it is positioned perfectly to drench the prom queen. To guarantee their target is in place, they successfully stuff the ballot boxes to ensure Carrie and Tommy win the coveted crowns. The night of the prom arrives, and Carrie's arrival is met with mixed reactions. Curiosity, respect, and underlying skepticism. Tommy treats her with genuine, unforced kindness, and they share sweet, normal moments on the dance floor. For the first time in her life, Carrie feels accepted, even beautiful. Sue Snell, watching from a distance outside the gym with Tommy's friend, is relieved and moved that her act of kindness has seemingly worked. The moment of catastrophe arrives when the school principal announces the prom king and queen, Tommy Ross and Carrie White, as they ascend the stage and the crowns are placed upon their heads. Marking Carrie's peak moment of happiness, the trap is sprung. Chris, watching from a hidden balcony, gives the signal, and Billy pulls the rope. The bucket of cold, thick pig's blood crashes down, completely dousing Carrie from head to toe, instantly replacing her white gown with grotesque crimson. The gymnasium is silent for a dreadful moment before the inevitable wave of shock and vicious laughter erupts from the crowd. The horrifying sound of the laughter, combined with the extreme physical and psychological shock of the blood, acts as the ultimate trigger, pushing Carrie's telekinetic power past any previous limit. The latent ability becomes a furious, uncontrollable force of pure psychic rage. Standing blood-soaked on the stage, Carrie locks all the exits of the gymnasium, trapping her tormentors inside. Her eyes glowing with an intense psychic energy, she uses her mind to cause electrical faults, starting massive fires throughout the gym. She violently snaps cables, flings heavy objects, and uses her mind to telekinetically crush, impale, and immolate her classmates. The scene becomes a catastrophic inferno of screaming and destruction. Tommy Ross, an innocent victim, is killed by a falling beam. Carrie, now a figure of biblical vengeance, stalks out of the burning ruins, leaving behind a horrifying scene of mass casualties. Carrie's revenge continues outside the gym. Chris and Billy attempt a frantic escape in their car. Carrie finds them, and with a terrifying display of focused power, she uses her mind to smash their car into a pole and then into a tree, killing them both instantly. Wounded, covered in blood, and utterly exhausted, Carrie returns home. She is met by Margaret, who has been waiting in terrifying anticipation. Margaret reveals her true, final delusion. She believes Carrie is a devil child, and the events of the night were God's judgment. Margaret embraces Carrie in a moment of false comfort before retrieving a large butcher knife and plunging it into Carrie's back. The profound betrayal and pain unleash Carrie's last, desperate surge of telekinesis. She pins Margaret against a wall with sharp, flying objects before pulling Margaret toward her. In a final, agonizing confrontation, Carrie uses her mind to levitate Margaret and crucify her against the doorway. Margaret collapses, fatally wounded. Carrie, near death from her own wound and completely drained of her power, collapses, weeping. As the trauma overwhelms her, her telekinesis causes the entire house to shake uncontrollably. Sue Snell, who had been following Carrie's path, arrives at the scene just as the house collapses, burying both mother and daughter beneath the rubble in a final, cataclysmic act of destruction. The film concludes with Sue Snell visiting Carrie's grave sometime later, an image of the girl she tried to save forever etched in her mind. Sue kneels down, placing a flower on the headstone. As she walks away, a large crack forms in the gravestone, and the entire slab begins to shake violently before the scene cuts to black.